not less than 6 feet in height along each boundary of the premises that abuts a residential property. And you would install an 8-foot stockade fence to buffer the mulch pile as shown on the site plan. That would be acceptable to you?
We're coming off the 6-foot fence, going to an 8-foot, and then coming down.
It will be an ununiform height, but you've also got different functions going on there.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, this is a big deal. Right? We're going to hold you to this. So.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one issue. The second issue is the mulch being continuously wet, Mr. Gray has suggested that it also be kept wet both while being stored and while being offloaded. Sure. You found that to be acceptable. The third issue is the setback, which Jack, I forgot Jack's last name, I'm
Carpenter.
sorry. Mr. Carpenter has asked to be 20. We've acknowledged that 20 is difficult given the geometry of that swing. Mr. Martinelli has now said that you might be able to get 20 on that first bin. I wonder if we could do this by you, and you've suggested that that's really 8.
7.
7.
7 to 8.
Yeah. So we have that as an outstanding matter. I don't know if the board has something they want to say about that. He's suggesting that it's a 7 to 8 foot setback, but that's not really a setback, right? It's only here, because he owns that.
Yeah, I don't think 20 is doable, nor perhaps necessary when you have an 8-foot fence, 15 or 13 giant arborvitae. We know that Mr. Carpenter has really a mulching area and sort of a storage area in that direct area. I think his main issue was the fire and the burning of the fence, which I think we address and alleviate. And by walking the property, we know that his yard and his children's play area is way beyond his rear lot line, going towards his residence. So I think 20 feet is onerous.
Okay?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, there should be something. Because the idea was, the permit requires you to pull the mulch back as far as possible. There ought to be a minimum, it seems to me. I don't think that 20 will work on that first bin, Mr. Martinelli, because 1146 is the abutter. It's only those other 2 bins where Jack's the abutter. So you really don't have a setback on that first bin, which you could probably pull down further east, closer to Randolph Avenue, but I don't know that it'll have any effect as applied. But the board could say that the setback should be no event less than 7 feet as shown on the plan. That will at least give some setback, and seems to me to be the intent. I would like to have more, but I think your site is tight right there. We all know that. Especially when you get your sprinkler system in, I gather it'd be even tighter. That's a bit of a compromise, I know. What does the board say to that?
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. I think the only issue is the amount of cubic yards of mulch that may be stored on the premises. Just for the record, so that I know that people are watching this at home, read it so that everybody understands what this says, because this is something that's never appeared in a special permit before. The way it was written now, and picking up on Mr. Lumbaug's comment from a couple of hearings ago, it reads that not more than 125 cubic yards of mulch may be stored at the premises during the months of April, May, and June. Not more than 50 yards of mulch may be stored on the premises during the months of July through October and March. and not more than 10 yards of mulch may be stored on the premises during the months of November through February. Now, that's a bit of a tortured paragraph, but I can assure you that all 12 months are addressed, so that we know what the limits are for each of the months of the year. Mr. Prodigal will have to have a calendar as to how many cubic yards of mulch are permitted during any one period. The applicant has asked that leftover, I'm assuming particularly for the months of July and August, where you're coming down, be excluded from the 50-yard limitation. That's what you asked for. And one of the abutters, Mr. Martinelli, has suggested, and you've also asked for the 125 to be 210. We also know that you've only got 2 deliveries of mulch during the week, and no single delivery in excess of 8 yards of mulch. So that means that not more than 160 yards of mulch may be brought to the premises during any week. And you can't bring the mulch to the property before 10:30 or later than 4. So the real issue is, there's really 2 issues. One is, what's the total maximum number of cubic yards of mulch that can be at the property in April, May, and June? And what's the total amount of mulch that can be at the property during the carryover months? So I don't know if the board has thoughts on that. And I think I've accurately summarized where we are. And this is the last issue. Any of my fellow board members have something they want to say about that?
Just on the issue of the total cubic yards allowed during April, May, and June, I mean, I think there's been enough testimony from Jason for this board to understand that the mulch is a very, very significant part of his business, and it's certainly not my intent here to drive Eagle Farm out of business. My view is that some of the proposals that Jason submitted with respect to fencing, he's going to put 6 feet on the Martinelli lot line. There are 40-foot existing arborvitaes on the Martinelli lot line. He's pushing back his display plant line 20 feet, installing the 2 pear trees up against, I guess they would then be behind the 8-foot fence. We know from walking the property that Mr. Martinelli has on his side of the incoming 6-foot fence. He has very tall trees, 50-odd foot trees, and a lot of them. We have the irrigation system going in. In my view, Jason has shown a lot of good faith to address the issue of trying to remediate Mr. Martinelli's issues with noise and dust. I think Jason has made a good case that 125 won't do it for him. It'll cause him. So I'm flexible on the 125. I'm willing to go where we need to go to get a good compromise and get this thing resolved. Not to belittle or limit anything that Mr. Martinelli has testified to or brought to light to the board, but we do have significant testimony from other more direct abutters that the business is fantastic and they get along very well with Jason, and he's very accommodating. There's clearly a history here with the issues that Mr. Martinelli raises, and I'm not saying they're not legitimate. They are very legitimate, but I think that Jason has done a good job. It's taken us a while to get there, but I think he's done a good job to put forth proposals to alleviate Mr. Martinelli's concerns as best as he can when weighed against what he needs to do to keep his business running. So, having said all that, I'm flexible on the 125.
I could be flexible on it. I don't know that 210 is the right number, but it seems 125 is not enough. There's a lot of screening between the two properties now. There will be. So we just have to figure out what the right number is.
Mr. Prodek, do you have a suggestion for the board?
He wanted bags.
You want a clear reading special permit, which is exactly what we're going to give to you.
Right.
When you come back here and ask for it to be clarified, we're going to remind you you were sitting here when we negotiated.
180 to accommodate 2 loads plus some leftover or something like that.
Again, it is my opinion that the 125 is a reasonable number, and that could be, and he could come back if he were to demonstrate that, number one, Mr. Mark, that the noise and the dust have been brought under control. Then I think it should be looked at beyond that.
Hear from the applicant?
I think the years of doing business for Jason has indicated the reality that 125 is insufficient during that 1 quarter of the year. And if you take a season away from him, how do we get those people back that have had to move on to go somewhere else? It's just contrary to the best business principles to be unable to satisfy the people that come to you year after year after year. And during April, May, and June, they come year after year after year for more than 125 yards. I mean, maybe there's another number, or whether it was 180 or 190, something that might be a compromise, but 125 is clearly, would make it impossible for him to continue his current operation.
If I might, just a thought that comes into my mind as you say that. As we found in another case, it was difficult. It's difficult for a board to say, well, this particular business, you can sell to Joe's Landscaping and Jim's Landscaping, but you can't sell to your own landscaping company. Is it possible that the mulch that Eagle Farms uses for their own landscaping jobs, is it possible to keep that mulch elsewhere, and would that help to reduce the number that have to be stored on this site? Just a thought.
Eagle Farms as a whole does not install a lot of mulch. I don't think it would be significant.
What about 50 or 60 cubic yards? There's 3 bins, 150 to 180, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just throwing out a number at this point to try to...
Well, one number that I think actually is, I appreciate that, one number that isn't really thrown out is 160, because 160 is 2 times 80.
Yeah.
2 times 80, but if there's leftover from a prior, you're going to have a little bit of
We'll have to
a...
deal with leftover anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
You get the sense, let me try this. Here's the sense of the board could be that you really don't want additional mulch coming there when you've got a lot left over, say that first of all. We wanted to tie the capacity so that we would begin to get a handle on how much absolute mulch is there, recognizing that you had your peak, your medium, and your small season. One way to do this would be to suggest 160, and then have something about the fact that that would not include any leftover, something like that. I'm concerned that that gets a little bit more difficult for you to enforce. And there's actually been people questioning whether you can even calculate how many yards were there at any one time, which is really why...
I'm capable of making reasonable estimates.
Okay, good, good. Which is why you're the building commissioner and we're not. But that's good, because that was a question that we did get, and Mrs. Martinelli had asked that, as to whether or not you had an ability to, eyeball it and say, okay, that's 100 or so. I mean,
Haven't heard it on my smartphone now.
It's not an easy calculation. It's times 3 and 2, and, there's a 27 in there, things like that. Yeah.
Pressed, is it loose, is it?
Based.
You want to try that?
No, yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, that makes sense, Mr. Chairman. The 160 is some, understanding that there could be an overflow from a past delivery.
Is that a reasonable compromise, that we would limit it to 160 and we would permit a certain amount of overflow? I don't know exactly how to write that.
That's the fudge. You know what I mean? That's gonna be the area where it has the potential for, I don't wanna say abuse, but
Yeah, I think whether it's 125 or 380, there's always going to be that difficulty writing that, so we just...
There is a big difference, though, between 125 and 380, and I think we're hearing that from Mr. Martinelli.
Right, no, I agree, I'm just saying that the language will be the best it can be, and we will work with it the best we can.
So the proposal that I'll put out there is that you limit it to 160 cubic yards during April, May, and June, 50 yards during July through October and March, 10 yards during the months of November, December, January, and February, but that each of those might be increased to accommodate a certain amount of carryover from the previous delivery to be enforced by the building commissioner. A certain amount of, okay. What does the board say to that? I know that was
Small
very
amount?
artfully. Small amount?
I mean, I'm trying to,
Yeah,
I'll put in a,
I think there will, sure, there will be factors. I mean, if it's a particularly rainy season, maybe there's gonna be more carryover because less is moving out, I suppose. But I think some of that is, I'm still able to judge that, and I think we can
you can work with it.
at least begin to work.
if we
with
said
that.
minimal amounts of mulch may be in addition to accommodate any carryover during the changes in delivery. Does that work for you, Nick? Stephen?
I like one elastic term.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add anything to this hearing? Okay, I'm going to call this hearing to an end. I'm going to request a motion on the adoption of an amended and let me add one more issue. The last issue is that Mr. Sanatellis has asked for an extension of the permit. And as the acting chair, I'm actually sympathetic to the request, but I don't think we can properly grant it in the way that this forum was designed. The forum was designed it's really an enforcement order under the 2008 special permit. And I think it's unfair at this late time after, and I know you asked it before, Mr. Barry, and I don't think I gave you a full answer, but I do think it's unfair and a little bit out of order, with all due respect, and I know that, I don't mean that negatively, to seek an extension at this time. The person who asked us to come here is the building inspector for the purpose of enforcing the 2008 order. We've taken steps to clarify that the 2008 order is being amended and restated, but it's not being extended, partly because it wasn't asked to be extended. And that's not to say that I or any member of this board wouldn't entertain an application to extend the order at the appropriate time. We are requiring that you reapply to the board within a time period sufficient to extend the permit prior to its expiration, so that we have, and knowing how long this took, we have enough time to consider it. And we're not requiring that you not come in front of us until 2017. So I'll leave it to you as to decide whether or not you come back. But I'm more than happy to hear from the members of the board. But as the acting chair, I don't think we can consider that at this point.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. Okay. So I'd like to entertain a motion that the Board of Appeals adopt an amended and restated special permit substantially in the form as has been heard today, and that we will incorporate the findings made by the board at the various hearings in the usual and customary way, and that this special permit would replace in totality every special permit that's been granted on the premises to date, and be a standalone document governing the use of the property at 1126, 1146 Randolph Avenue, to be enforced by the building commissioner in accordance with the town bylaw. Is there a second for that motion?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all the members of the town for bearing with us during the 5 hearings that we've had in the site visit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks.
Mr. Prodek, thank you very much. Let me take this one. Mr. Bonelli,
Thank you guys for your hard work.
thank you. This is you, no? Oh, no. Oh, tonight we have another one?
Yes, wait, yes, we got one
So
more.
over the summer, you can figure out 15.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Sorry, it took an extra session.
Thanks, guys.
Tomorrow?
You email me early in the morning if it is. I don't think it is.
I think we swapped off.
Evening.
Oh, I thought we were going home.
Almost.
5 minutes.
Oh, it's the Phil?
It's the fill.
All right.
We thought 126 cubic yards was a lot of material.
I know. Okay, what, oh, I see. Okay.
This is close to where I grew up.
Where did you grow up?
306.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, it's very close.
Very close.
Is that Forbes Road? Yeah.
Well, it's the road that, the private driveway that goes up from across from Pond Pond. My brother's there now.
Is that?
It's,
So there's a couple that just bought it. I just went in that house.
that's,
Is it the one that's got the, so you grew up in that house? Is that that?
I grew up at 306.
Yeah.
And my grandparents and my great-grandparents were at 300. My brother's now in 300.
Huh.
So hopefully it's not a problem on this case, but I don't think we're abutting.
Anyway, I was just in your home.
No, I think I should know this area.
So you're
If you go towards Pompon and you took your next right,
It's the next driveway. You know the driveway where the house burned down, the mansard roof house burned down at the end of the street, right? At the end of the driveway. Up that driveway. Goes up to the Beatrice Forbes' house. Right, there's several houses on it.
are you on the right-hand side?
No, it would be the left.
You were on the
Yeah,
left-hand
no,
side.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, you know the one I was thinking of, yeah. But you were right across the street from it.
We were across the street,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Till 1975. Dating myself now.
So you were 3 when you moved.
What was I? 6th grade.
I graduated from high school,
Yeah, 79, right here.
82.
Okay, next subject. Where do you live now?
Hinkley Road. Right next to the newly resurfaced Central Avenue. Much quieter at
Now
home.
that everybody knows where you live on TV.
They all know anyway.
We're gonna call to order our 8 o'clock hearing on the resurfacing of Central Avenue. Upon the application of Michael and Cynthia George dated September 22, 2014, on file with the board for a special permit under the provisions of section 4A3, earth materials removal and deposit of fill. The applicants propose to deposit approximately 3,200 cubic yards of clean fill onto their property located at 328 Adams Street, which is located in a residential A district. The purpose of the project is for the installation of a granite terrace, swimming pool, and other landscaping features. All is set forth in the application on plans with the file, on plans on file with the board and open to public spectrum. My name is Jeffrey Mullen. I'm the acting chairman. Tonight, to my immediate left is Nicholas Gray, a board member, and to my immediate right is Stephen Lumbo, a member of the Board of Appeals. I have in front of me the application submitted by Attorney Edward Corcoran on behalf of Michael and Cynthia George. I've got a letter from Mr. Prondak, the Milton Building Commissioner, to Mr. Corcoran, calling to Mr. Corcoran's attention the need for approval of the Board of Appeals. I've got a number of exhibits to the application setting forth with the requested relief along with the reasoning articulated by Mr. Corcoran. And I've got a set of drawings that come in 4 sheets, including a certified plot plan, existing conditions plan, a drainage plan, a soil prep plan, and a master plan for the premises, laying out the work to be done. I believe that's the entirety of the file of the board. I see Mr. Corcoran is here with Mr. George.
Yes.
Welcome to the Board of Appeals. How can we help you?
Appreciate your time. I am joined by Michael George, who is the owner of the property at 328 Adams Street. He purchased it just over a year ago. I have some photos that I think will be helpful to the board, including the aerial photo of the property. 328 Adams Street is part of the old Forbes estate. 328 was built by Ralph Emerson Forbes, who was the grandson of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and was built in 1903. It was a large mansion-style house on a 5-acre parcel of land. And for a long period of time, it was owned and maintained by monks from a religious order after the Forbes had sold it in the mid-50s. And from that time on, the property has really been sort of allowed to kind of disintegrate, if you will. Became overgrown outside of the area immediately around, which you can see from the aerial, around the property, the house itself. We are going to disrepair. The Georges have moved in and are restoring the mansion to its former grandeur, doing a beautiful job. And they propose to add some outdoor living area that, if you look at the aerial photo, sort of in this area back here. So the area on the plan, so this photo is this on the plan. And in this area, to the rear of the property, they propose to install some outdoor living area, swimming pool, an outdoor patio, and amenities like that. It requires a fairly significant amount of fill because the property drops off pretty significantly from the foundation of the house in all 4 directions. A lot of it's eroded away from the foundation, so the plan is to bring some fill back in, restore some of the ground around it, and then fill up. There are a series of permits that were necessary. The second photograph, the next set of photographs show the area in question. This first one is on sort of the back side of the property, looking back at the area in question, and there is permission to build a freestanding wall that will become a part of a retaining wall system that will be installed if this permit is approved. The swimming pool and all the work will go on the other side of that. But the plan is to raise it fairly significantly, at least up and above the top level of that wall. In addition, so most of the area is in what's being proposed, a series of retaining walls. There's a 48 by 20 foot pool, an outdoor fire pit, a fireplace, a spa, and some other things. So sort of a really nice new area in back. And then on the front, as you come in the driveway, there's a lawn with a wall that's being installed. You see it down below. And that also sort of slopes down towards the front of the property. The plan is to level that with that retaining wall and have it sort of as a children's play yard, where they can sort of have a flat level part of the property where they can play their sports games, after the skating rink or something like that. So, to do that,
today, Mr. Corcoran.
to do that, I know you wouldn't want, problems with having a skating rink, slicing open around the skating rink. But to do that, it really requires a significant amount of fill. And so, it's an interesting bylaw that the board administers, that we bring in more than 200 cubic yards, if we move more than 200 cubic yards, requires a permit. I don't know the genesis of the bylaw. We certainly exceed in that amount of fill by a substantial amount. We think it's a pretty straightforward request, and I'd ask the board approve it.
Any questions?
I've got a couple of questions, Attorney Corcoran. Under 4A4, list out a couple of the issues we need to sort of talk about, I think. On these fill cases, we have questions about mode of transportation, how many truckloads, how often. I know that's a tough turn going up and down Adams, coming out of that driveway.
It's actually not a very difficult turn. That driveway is fairly wide, and it is perpendicular to Adams Street, and then there's a gentle turn off to the left as you come into the property.
Right.
So this is a fairly wide driveway. I think and it's fairly flat as you come into the end gently.
I'm thinking in terms of, do we know, we're talking, what's the number here, 3,200 cubic yards. How many cubic yards in an average dump truck load?
This is Tom Grant. He's overseeing the installation of all the work that's being done.
Good evening. We anticipate bringing triaxles in, triaxle trucks to bring as much in as possible. We're not looking to, we're trying to get as much material in as possible, as quickly as possible during optimal times. Usually between the hours of 9 and 3. We're probably going to have about 70 trucks, 70 loads coming in. We try to get, I would say, maybe 8 trucks a day, 8 truckloads a day. If the, what we plan to do is have one of our laborers at the, on the corner of Adams, where you turn into that private drive. There is a lot of activity on Adams, so we understand that. So we just want to make sure that the trucks can come in and leave without disturbing the residents. I anticipate bringing the fill in no more than 7 working days. We would not be doing it on the weekends. It'd be Monday through Friday, within the, not around rush hour. It just really wouldn't make sense. So we would be staggering those trucks.
Are you coming in from the north on Adams, south? Or
We'd be coming in from the south. Well, we're coming off of 93 north.
From the south.
Mm-hmm.
Through East Milton by the new bank.
But you're coming up there.
Right.
More questions?
not at this moment.
I was just staggered by the amount, that's all. That's the main concern. I mean, it's a short amount. I mean, I guess, can we hear a little bit more about why so much is necessary? I mean, not that, I don't know if that's our thing, but I mean, obviously the bylaw, it triggers our involvement at 200, and we're talking, so I don't want to do the math, but, you know, significant increase
Probably
over that.
almost 20 times.
Yeah.
15 times the price.
It's a 5-acre property.
Yeah.
It's not an insignificant, property.
They're filling sort of a quadrant, well off of the property lines. The setbacks are pretty significant off of each property, more than 60 feet off of each property line.
So if I were to draw a line on the certified plot plan where the fill was going, it's just, because I'm not, I see where this proposed retaining wall is with the curb and the pool, so it's in sort of that area?
This is a,
Oh, you've got it there.
yeah, I thought there was one in each of your.
Got it? Make it that far down.
That's in the original.
Okay.
That shows you graphically.
Oh, there it is.
Where
Never mind. It's on the bottom.
where the,
Where it's going.
Right. And you can see, for example, as you come off the pool towards the east, north is here. It steps down, taper down, and then it's allowed to go into sort of a natural state before you go into the property that abuts. In fact, the property that's abuts is owned by the Open Land Conservation Trust. Left to be open space.
You all set?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just, it's the drainage, right? I mean, have we heard anything about the runoff from that?
There's attached to this is a drainage plan,
Yep.
a site prep and soil erosion plan,
Okay.
so that the line of hay bale stacked completely around.
All right, I got it now.
Protects
Yep.
all erosion. All work is being done outside of any wetland area. There is wetland buffer that's on the property that abuts to the northwest.
Yep, yeah, I know.
Forbes Woods.
Yeah, I've walked around in there a lot, so I think I've got that part. All right, that's all I have.
How many trees are coming down?
At this point, we've taken some trees down already, but I don't think there's much of anything left to be done in that regard.
Would you be willing to accept a condition that would not prohibit, but express a desire to remove as few trees as possible?
From here forward, we're going to probably end up planting some trees, just so you know. Yeah, I think that would be a reasonable.
Where is the fill coming from?
It's coming from the South Shore. I think it's, right now, I think we've got it narrowed down to a company called PA Landers. They do quite a bit of
I know
site
they
work.
are,
Okay.
yeah.
Do a lot of asphalt work, don't they?
Yeah, and back in business. Is it, what's the nature of the fill? How would you
It's-
describe it?
It is, we've actually went through a pretty long process of, there's really not a lot of sand around this area, and we've looking for something that will both pack well, but also be able to percolate. So it's a gravelly sand mix. It's not like recycled asphalt. It's not a processed gravel. Basically it's a natural byproduct of the work that they do. So it's I would say a gravelly sand.
Can we classify it as clean fill?
Absolutely.
All right, so what I'd like, this is where I'm going with this. You know, I don't think anyone in the town wants this to become a dumping ground for some three-decker in, you know, even if it's from the South Shore.
Sure.
So I just make that suggestion, some type of, you know, the language would be a gravelly sand mix of clean fill materials. Regardless of its source, we just have an idea of what we're getting.
Sure.
Or what Mr. and Mrs. George are getting.
You
So the
do specify clean fill
You do, in the application? Okay. Could we also, you would also make a representation to us, and we would require that there'd be no resulting drainage of any surface water or runoff onto any abutting property?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that'd be fine.
There's no Concom jurisdiction here at all?
No.
They didn't have anything to say about this?
They have no jurisdiction.
Yeah.
We have a separate action pending with the conservation to restore the stone wall back in the corner of the property, because there's a portion of the stone wall.
That failed.
Stone
You know where
wall.
that, you know that area? Yeah, the wall failed,
that.
so we're
Um,
gonna try to
So he's
reconstitute it.
restoring, and he's restored to a point where he's gotten to the 100-foot buffer.
I see.
And we have reached out specifically, I've talked to Jim Camo at DCR. DCR owns the land that abuts Forbes Woods. And we were due to be on Thursday night before the Conservation Commission, but for reasons that aren't quite clear, we're not meeting on Thursday, it's been rescheduled. So, but we'll be seeking an order of conditions.
All right. So you say it's 3,190.94 cubic yards. That's the net volume.
Net.
That suggests that there's some cutting here, right? So you're taking some soil off, too? Otherwise, I wonder why we have a net number. No, I see the calculation, I just can't figure out what's actually happening.
Well, I think that net number is, there's some loam on the site that we strip off,
Okay.
and then we'll amend it with some organics. That's probably where that net
All
comes
right.
from.
All right, so it's not like you're taking a whole lot of bad soil off and bringing in a whole lot of new soil. There's not a larger gross amount coming in, because if there's 70 loads, 8 trucks a day, you said 7 days, but the math isn't perfect.
Right, there's always gonna be a little bit of variable on each day of how many trucks. It could be 1 truck, 2 trucks, it will vary, depending on the traffic.
And how big are these trucks?
They're triaxles.
What cubic
So,
yards?
they can probably carry about 20 ton, which is approximately 26 yards.
Yeah, 26 or 20, yeah, no mulch, right? They're mulch in these?
No.
trucks?
Not sprinkling it or.
Okay,
So 26 yards
yeah.
on.
You're basically building up the yard so that you can enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not,
Could have said that at the start.
it's not particularly usable. Yeah.
Right. It's up here and it
Correct.
slopes down. You want your kids to be able to play in the grass and you want to be able to have a swimming pool in your
That's
backyard.
it.
Right.
Well said.
Fair enough. I don't have any further questions.
No.
You know the area better than all of us.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in favor of the application?
I just had,
Oh, nobody?
I'm sorry, what are we, 3,600? 3,200.
There's 3,600 coming in and 400 going out. So there's a net
So,
of 3,190, rounded to 3,200.
well,
Right.
coming in, if there's, you said about 26 yards per truckload?
Yes.
Let's give us 123 loads.
Approximately.
I thought you said about 70 loads.
Well, that was just doing some quick math. That number, that 3,200, that's a very high number. I don't think we're gonna be up that high. It's probably not gonna be that many cubic yards. So when I looked at the plan as well, you know, we're using material on site too. So that value is gonna be dropped down.
So maybe we'll do something like this. We say a maximum of 3,200 cubic yards. You'd be delivered only Monday through Friday, not during commuter hours, either in the AM or the PM. That you take steps to manage the traffic on Adams Street, as you said. I don't know that are you
No,
suggesting a
the-
minimum, a maximum number of loads per day? Is that
Well,
what you're
my only
thinking?
thought is, you know, it's Adams Street, it's a busy street, Fontbonne Academy is right there, or close by. I'm just looking at it from a safety point of view. Somewhere between 70 and 120 odd truckloads coming in over a course of a week is upwards of a dozen a day or so, potentially. I think we just gotta be careful, that's all.
Yeah, it won't be going by Fontbonne, as you know. We fall short of it by a
Right.
couple hundred yards.
If you're coming up.
Coming up.
But that's what he
Adams
said.
from East
Well,
Main.
do you,
Coming in that
could
way.
we say that the permit only permits you to come from the south? That will matter.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I
you go
think
through
that,
Milton Hill,
right,
and deal with those folks.
right, they wouldn't allow that, trailers to go down that way anyway. Yeah, they wanna jump right off the South Expressway and come right onto.
Come right through East Milton where there's no traffic at all.
And probably reasonable to suggest that it would be between 9 and 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's really the time of day when school is in session. It would be less likely that you would have students.
And I could look it out.
Yeah, it would,
Yeah, they're after 3.
any earlier than 9, that corner of Adams and,
Center. Otherwise, where I'm thinking.
you know, it's a crosswalk there for the kids going to St. Agatha's.
No doubt.
There's a
Squantum.
crossing guard to Squantum Street. I think he'd be coming off of Squantum, wouldn't he? He's coming 93.
You'd be taking a right.
So, I think we should keep it to, well after 9 AM.
Can you do after 9,
That'd be fine.
10?
9 would be a little better. We'd get it done quicker. It'd be less days to be
Yeah,
on
the
the
kids are
road.
usually, you know, they're in
Say
school.
9 to 3, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
But I don't know that you want to limit it, the absolute number of trucks.
No, I'm not
Let's
saying
say
that,
the
I'm
police
just,
department
yeah.
can deal with that if they believe it to be a nuisance. I think, I'd like to suggest that we make certain that it's clean fill, that we prohibit any drainage onto adjacent properties. We limit it to 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. We require that you manage the traffic with your personnel at Adams, as you said. I really think those are the conditions that we've heard. Oh, and then you take steps to minimize trees, tree removals. And maybe put a, let me say this, make a motion of supporting that and asking the board if they would, if there's a second. If there's a second to that motion?
Second.
And all in favor, granting a special permit to the George family?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you've got your special permit.
Gentlemen,
Take
thank you.
A little while for us to put this together. Sensing that you might be you're out there now, doing the work now.
Correct.
When would you place the fill?
As soon as possible, as soon as we have that permit in hand.
Okay. We'll do our best to get it out, and you can deal with Mrs. Fitzgerald on the details of how to get it recorded and fully executed. All right, thank you very much.
Right?
Good to meet
Thank you.
Who's writing that one?
Whoever didn't take the last one.
Nick,